Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you are joining us from around the world. My name is John Defterios, and I'm honored to moderate this special event coming to you live from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. We are joined today by members and key voices across tourism, policy, and investment. Thank you for being with us for what is truly a significant moment, not just for Saudi Arabia, but for the global travel and tourism community itself. We are at an inflection point in global travel, facing new pressures, shifting expectations, and sweeping technological changes. What is being introduced today is a global platform that looks beyond an event itself. It's about setting the agenda for the next era of how the world travels, connects, and grows. Over the next half hour, you will hear directly from the leaders driving this platform forward. And joining us today are His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib, Minister of Tourism for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Chairman of Tourise. His Excellency has been at the forefront of Saudi Arabia's tourism transformation and plays a central role in convening today's global effort. Julia Simpson, President and CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council, a respected advocate for the private sector and a powerful voice in the future of travel. And Jean-Philippe Cozet, CEO of Tourise, who will guide the implementation of this new platform and ensure it delivers real-world outcomes for the sector itself. To officially launch the platform and share the vision behind it, let's welcome His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib, the Minister of Tourism for Saudi Arabia and Chairman of Tourise. It is a pleasure to see this come to fruition. You had this vision for it to happen, and today is the day. The floor is yours. It's great to see you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. The global moment, there is an ancient Arabic proverb that says, who lives sees much, who travels sees more. In 8 simple words, it captures the unique power of tourism, its ability to open eyes, to teach, to inspire, and to transform. Travel and tourism is one on the rise. This year, the sector will contribute $11.7 trillion to the worldwide economy. That is 10.3% of the global GDP. By 2035, it will rise to 16.5 trillion or 11.5. Travel and tourism already provide jobs for 1 in 10 of the world workforce population, but that is predicted to increase to 1 in 8 by 2035. Total exports revenue from tourism are now 3%, higher than before COVID pandemic, and investors in the sector last year enjoyed an average return of more than 20%. Despite all that, global tourism is at crossroads due to economic uncertainty, global tariffs, the impact of climate change, workforce skills, and retention. And our decision about which path to take will define its future. Today, I'm proud to announce Tourise, a bold new initiative that will provide a clear path to success for the tourism sector, not just for today, but for the next 50 years and beyond. Why Tourise? Why now? Tourise is a unique platform that will bring the public and private sector together as never before. It will launch in Riyadh in November, but this is no ordinary conference or summit. Tourise is no ordinary endeavor. For its mission now and in the years ahead won't be to debate the future of tourism, but to design the future of tourism and fearlessly turn that design into reality. As Saudi Arabia's Minister of Tourism, I have seen the remarkable efforts of people and organizations around the world to pursue the potential of our great sector. Yet, I have lost count of the number of times people have said to me, that is a great idea, but how are we going to make it happen? too often, creativity has been crushed, innovation has been isolated, and dynamic ideas have been defeated. History tells us that the greatest achievements of our sector have been made when people come together, when nations have united, when governments have collaborated with companies, when innovators have worked with investors, and when educators have inspired employees. But it happened too rarely. Bringing stakeholders together, Tourise will bring everyone in the industry together, uniting the private and public sector and delivering positive, practical, visible, and permanent solutions. Tourise will be dynamic, it will be disruptive, and it will be defining. Through Tourise, the innovations of the future will meet experiences of the past. Through Tourise, capital will meet creativity. Through Tourise, the public and the private sector will create a new powerful partnership. Through Tourise, the full potential of an industry fundamental to the health and wealth of the world will be achieved. Advisory Board, to drive the ambitious yet vital mission, we have formed a global advisory board whose members are titans of the tourism ecosystem, drawing from every part of the sector. They have been the architects of tourism's current success and are visionaries who will help forge its future. They, like me, are unified in their passion to create a more prosperous, more inclusive, and more sustainable and more responsible tourism sector in every corner of this planet. We should not be intimidated by the task ahead. While the Global Advisory Board will guide the strategic direction of Tourise, its ultimate success will rely on those who embrace the bold adventure. The Tourise Awards, tourism have been driving economic, culture, and social progress for centuries, and never more so than today. So, to celebrate and champion remarkable projects and initiatives around the world, we will unveil the inaugural Tourise Awards at the summit in November. These awards will showcase excellence, creativity, and innovation across the industry, setting global standards to which we can all aspire, as well as recognizing the contributions of the winners. The awards will help to share lessons and inspire others to pursue the extraordinary, not just the ordinary. Like tourism itself, the essence of Tourise is to bring people, experiences, and ideas together. And I am certain that those who travel to Tourise Bath will see much more. So I issue a challenge. If you value tourism, if you value its power to change lives, hearts, and minds, and if you value the challenge of turning dreams into reality, join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's great
Thank
to
you
have
very
you.
much.
And we had a great
Thank you.
opening presentation. We'll see you afterwards for the round table.
you.
His Excellency
Thank
Ahmed
you.
Al-Khatib, the Minister
Sure.
of Tourism here in the Kingdom of
Thank you.
Saudi Arabia. Now, it's very interesting what the Minister was talking about there, going from $11.7 trillion to over $16 trillion by 2035. And it's time to reflect on what this means from a global private sector perspective. We hear now from Julia Simpson. She's the President and CEO of the World Travel and Tourism Council and a global sector advocate, membership of 200 representing this business at an inflection point, as the Minister was saying. Julia, it's great to have you back. Also worth noting that you hosted the WTTC here in Q4 2022. So it's nice to see you back here.
Thank you.
Floor is yours.
Your Excellency, thank you. It's a real honour to join you today. And let me be the first to congratulate the Ministry of Tourism and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on this landmark achievement. A few months ago, when I was invited to join the advisory board for Tourise, I was struck by a thought. Not, can we achieve this, but rather imagine what we can achieve. For many of us, modern life presents a paradox. We've never been more connected on our phones, our laptops, and social media. Yet people's sense of disconnection has reached an all-time high. We lack the deeper, more meaningful dialogue that modern life so urgently demands. Travel and tourism is the sector that offers a unique solution. And where better to start reconnecting, to start rewriting the rules of global connection than here in Riyadh with His Excellency, with the great vision for tourism that this country represents. The Kingdom introduced its first ever international tourist visa just 6 years ago in 2019. Then tourism was over 9% of the Saudi Arabian economy. By the end of this year, it's set to reach over 10%, with international visitor spending forecast to hit almost 200 billion riyals. And by 2035, tourism is forecast to make up almost 14% of Saudi Arabia's GDP. I've been very privileged to visit some of the Kingdom's greatest treasures and see this growth firsthand from Diriyah and Dalula and beyond. And as this new economy has grown, I've seen how the Kingdom is prioritising tourism that is sustainable, with nature not just being protected, but being restored. By the end of this decade, tourism in Saudi Arabia is set to employ over 3 million people, more than 17% of the whole workforce, and that is in a country with a high percentage of highly educated young people. So it's been a real honour to partner with the Ministry here and to witness this achievement today. Tourise is critical, not just to Saudi Arabia, the region, but to the whole world. It is a perfect partner with the World Travel and Tourism Council, and I want to personally congratulate the vision and determination of His Excellency. Always focused on tourism can benefit us globally, not just here in the Kingdom. At the WTTC, we unite travel and tourism leaders from both the public and the private sectors to discuss and define the future of tourism. And in addition, the WTTC research and data, we also bring together a global summit each year. This year we will meet in Rome just before Tourise, so together we will be even stronger. WTTC's focus remains championing and facilitating a more sustainable and inclusive sector for the benefit of people and planet. We know that achieving this requires collaboration, research and investment, which is why it is pivotal that one of Tourise's objectives is to foster key agreements and MOUs between investors, businesses and governments. Investment and collaboration is always key if tourism is going to work. Now, WTTC data is forecasting that globally, as His Excellency said, travel and tourism is going to be worth over $12 trillion this year. And by 2035, we expect that to reach $16.5 trillion, representing 11.5% of the global economy. So we must prepare for this growth. We need to support it and ensure that it's both sustainable and inclusive, benefiting all the people in our communities, our businesses, and the planet. We can do that by working together and staying connected. Thank you to everyone who has been part of this effort. We are going to need all of you. And I look forward to seeing how Tourise can help us take forward together a strong and united sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you back here at the roundtable shortly, of course. The WTTC celebrating its 30 years as an organization, and Julia was sharing some of the great insights that were taking place when it was founded. It was triggered by the former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. When asked by industry, what can you do for tourism? He says, what can you do for yourselves? And let's work and collaborate with founders like Bill Marriott of Marriott Hotels, James Robinson of American Express, and that germinated something that still lives today and now coming to Saudi Arabia tonight. Just want to remind those who are watching on the press conference and the launch of Tourise, there's a chat box there. We had 177 journalists registered from 140 countries. We want to invite you, indeed, to put your questions, mention which organization you're from, your name, and the sector that you'd like to cover and who you'd like to address that question to. We'll get to as many as we can as the time allows, and if we cannot, you'll be getting answers from the team here at the Ministry of Tourism, the WTTC, and Tourise, of course, after the launch. Speaking of Tourise, the man who's the CEO of this organization is Jean-Philippe Cossy. He's going to share some further insights into how this platform will come to life. And I think what's coming out of this, JP, is the fact that it's no ordinary event. It's at a kind of a turning point for the industry. How can we do it better, collaborate, and keep sustainability alive at the same time? It's great to see you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John. Much appreciated. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, thank you for your remarks. It's a pleasure to be with you all here today, virtually for those who are joining us online, and in person for those of you who are actually with us. As we introduce something the global tourism sector has long needed, but never had, a single, united, and future-focused platform built not just to inspire ideas, but to ignite action. We gather at a moment when the tourism sector has recovered from the global pandemic, but is now facing other challenges. Tourism is growing again, but without coordination, we risk fragmentation. Travelers are evolving, expectations are shifting, and the climate is changing. Technology is moving faster than policy, and yet, until now, there has been no collective system to make sense of it all, no mechanism to set the global tourism agenda for the decades ahead. It is time to make sure the sector is prepared for whatever comes next, and Tourise is here to shape that future. Tourise will reframe how the industry operates and elevate how it thinks in order to set the direction of travel for the sector for the years ahead. And when it comes to technology, AI and smart solutions, investment and transformative partnerships, and travel experiences that create connections, immersion, and meaning. Tourise is not just about convening, it is about catalyzing. Catalyzing investments that reshape destinations. Catalyzing policies that are ready for the future. Catalyzing a tourism ecosystem that is more equitable, more intelligent, and more responsive to change. Because tourism is changing in all regards. It is changing in terms of the length of people's trips. Travelers spent on average 5 days away from home last year per trip, according to a MasterCard report, compared to just 4 days the year before, well, just prior to the pandemic. And that means they're also spending more money. The World Travel and Tourism Council 2025 Economic Impact Research shows that international visitor spending is forecast to reach an historic $2.1 trillion in 2025, surpassing the previous high of $1.9 trillion in 2019 by a whopping $164 billion. It's changing in terms of what travelers want from a holiday, with experiential travel thriving. According to an American Express Global Travel Trends report, 60% of respondents said they plan to book a trip around entertainment or sporting events in 2025, reinforcing that travel, when traveling for experiences rather than just relaxation, continues to be a driving force. Because tourism isn't just about places. It's about possibilities. It's about enabling the world to discover beauty, different cultures, new sports, different forms of entertainment and hospitality, and making that discovery as effortless and enriching as possible. Tourise was born from a deep understanding of a simple truth, that the journey is as important as the destination, that connectivity drives curiosity, and that innovation can turn logistics into lasting memories. Saudi Arabia, with its vision and momentum, provides the perfect backdrop for Tourise to emerge, not only as a flagship event, but as a platform that drives global impact year after year. The name Tourise highlights the rising potential of the tourism sector, and that potential is vast, particularly when you consider that an estimated 1.4 billion international tourists were recorded around the world in 2024. That's an increase of 11% over 2023, or 140 million more overnight visitors. And that number is expected to grow and increase to a further 3 to 5% over this year, according to the UNWTO. Tourise represents elevation, ambition, and movement, and not just in how we travel, but in how we lead, collaborate, and how we innovate. Tourise will provide a space for meaningful dialogue, deep collaboration, and bold action, creating the blueprint for a more resilient, future-ready sector. This platform will bring direction where there is uncertainty, coordination where there is fragmentation, and energy where there is untapped potential. And the Tourise Awards will recognize destinations that go above and beyond the ordinary to deliver unique and memorable experiences for visitors, redefining industry standards, and promoting innovation and sustainability. We are grateful to all of those who share in this vision, our partners, our advisors, and the many global voices who will help shape Tourise as we move forward. Today is only the beginning. The world will meet Tourise in November, and together we will set a new course for the future of tourism, one that is united, forward-looking, and truly transformative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, JP. A lot packed in there, too. Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe Crozet, of the CEO of Tourise, on the announcement today. Now, they always say in the world of tourism, or in travel, for those who've been fortunate enough to do so, it's a small world, but seeing is believing. So we want to take a closer look now at the platform itself. This short video will give you a glimpse into what Tourise represents and the future it's helping shape, as our three distinguished speakers have addressed. Let's take a look.
I am the reason people leave home and return changed. I cross borders and open minds. I preserve heritage, inspire new generations. I create stories that don't end when the journey does. I'm much more than leisure. I am economy and growth. I am diplomacy and progress. I am opportunity and innovation. But I can do much more. I need to do more. I am tourism, and I need the political, cultural, innovation leaders of this world to sit with me, to plan with me, to act with me, to rewrite the rules of how the world travels, connects, and grows. Tourise is my stage, my summit, where I will rise to new heights. I am tourism, and Tourise is my future.
Well, you've all set the scene for us on what Tourise represents and what it will achieve for the future of travel and tourism. This is truly an exciting moment for the travel and tourism sector overall, and for all the industries that actually intersect with it. Now we'll take questions from journalists who have joined us online. We have received questions from media around the world. Thank you to those who have submitted already. And as a reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please send it via the chat in the Zoom link, and we'll share them with the panel. As I was saying, Your Excellency, Minister Al-Khatib, we have it from 140 countries, so there's a lot of interest. And you sit here at the crossroads of East and West and North and South. And I had one question here, which is very interesting, from Justin Tabley of Business World. He says, Your Excellency, we've heard a lot about what Tourise will deliver for the world travel and tourism sector. But can you expand on the outlook globally? And we had, what, a financial crisis, 2008 to 2010, 11, and then COVID. Nobody thought you could rebuild a sector. But what's the outlook? Because the growth looks very strong. Yeah. And how does Tourise respond to that challenge? Please.
Oh, again, thank you very much, John. And I'm happy to be here and to address this prominent journalists. Tourise will be the platform for an industry that represents 10% of the global GDP and the global jobs. It is growing. I was extremely happy, and everyone, to see this industry have fully recovered from the pandemic by end of last year. And from here, it is expected the industry to grow in excess of the global growth as per of the World Travel and Tourism Council's reports. We expect the industry to represent 11.5% of the global GDP by 2030, and also to create 1 in each 8 jobs created globally by 2030.
But you sound very optimistic, is the point here. You don't see any turbulence. Despite some protectionism, I find that the dedication to tourism is still very, very strong. It seems like the traffic is rising despite some of that economic uncertainty, sir.
I agree, John. We had came through very challenging times, whether at times where some region have a geopolitical uncertainty or financial crisis, or a systematic risk like the pandemic, where the whole world was shut down and everybody stopped traveling. However, when we look at the future, we will always have challenges, for example, related to environment or human capital capacity and skills, or tariffs, and which will, impact inflation and maybe reduce demand to travel. However, there is only 1.4 billion people traveled last year, out of about 7.5 billion people live on this planet.
That talks about the potential, right?
Absolutely. And with the expansion of airlines, travel today is much easier. Artificial intelligence is making travel much easier, and travel became less expensive by affording or making more options, whether travel options or accommodation options, more financially rewarding. And therefore, we are very optimistic. We expect this industry to continue to grow, despite the fact that there is a potential challenges related to economical or geopolitical.
Great. Thanks for that intervention. I'm going to circle back with some other questions that are coming from the audience around the world. Julia, if I can bring this up to you, because this is from Kunal Dutt, the Press Trust of India, which is interesting. Very key market for Saudi Arabia, by the way, in the emerging market atmosphere right now. It's kind of a two-pronged question. Which markets are accelerating right now, despite the uncertainty, and which ones are facing more challenges? And a sidebar to that question, how do you be geographically balanced as Tourise? And JP, I think it'd be great for you to pick up on that as well. There's some concern that it'll be dominated by the Middle East or tilt too much to the East, but I said it sits at the crossroads of East and West. But how do you make sure it is balanced and get that even growth throughout the sector itself? Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I'm so excited to be part of launching Tourise with Your Excellency. I think the issue is travel and tourism before the pandemic was growing faster than global GDP for 9 consecutive years. And now we've picked up that pace. Travel and tourism is going to be growing faster than the global economy. As we said, the potential for people being on the move, the rising numbers of the middle classes, for example, in places like India, mean that the sector is growing. It is true that that growth is pretty stable everywhere, but if I was to say some of the winners, the Middle East is one of the fastest growing sectors, as is Asia Pacific. They're very much on the move, and they're very, very technologically innovative, and they've got some very, very good visa policies. If you look at Europe, which is a mature market, this year we're expecting Europe to do well. So it's not going backwards. And if we look at the biggest sector in the world in terms of travel and tourism, which is the USA, that we are actually seeing in terms of international visitor spending, it is actually going backwards. Now, slightly because of the strong dollar, it's slightly because of some of the sentiments around the tariffs. But one thing I will say, and I concur with His Excellency, is we're a very resilient sector. So I think we can expect eventually for travel and tourism to get back up on its feet again in the US as well.
Okay, very good. JP, can you pick up on this? Is that you can make this that all players, all countries, the private sector from around the world can join into Tourise itself. So you take advantage of this geographical location of the kingdom itself in terms of supporting the industry for growth and to balance it out with sustainability.
Absolutely. I think it's very important to understand that this is an invitation to the world. This is not a domestically focused event. This is a convening platform that will unite the industry together at a time which it's critical because of the way that tourism has emerged. It impacts every component of aspect of life today. Yeah. And as a consequence of this, we do need to bring and have this centralized platform to be able to unite the public and the private sector. And I will repeat it again, this is an invitation for the world.
Okay, a couple of questions coming up. JP, do you want to take it and His Excellency can jump in? This is from Mario Al-Barakat from Semaphore, the platform, and I'll have His Excellency jump in first. What will Tourise entail, and what are the initiatives or programs that this platform will provide? This is very interesting because you're of the belief, and it was in your opening comments, that you can have a much better and more sustainable tourism experience if you leverage technology in the next generation with it in terms of AI and deepen collaboration, even the user experience. What's the vision on that in terms of initiatives?
John, Tourise is not an event. Tourise is a whole year initiative that will get engaged and communicate with the different stakeholders in the global travel and tourism industry. And therefore, we have the annual Tourise event in November, and we will have the Tourise Awards for different categories, including the most advanced technology, the most advanced human capital investment, and most advanced, when it comes to sustainability and so on and so forth. So you will find and you will see awards, Tourise Awards, award different sectors, different initiatives, rather than the normal traditional awards that we got used to see. Awarding destinations that takes care of the environment and sustainability will encourage taking care of this very important planet. The first P, the second P is the people. Awarding the destinations and the countries who looks after the people and train them and skill them will encourage destinations and countries to further invest in the skill of the people and the worker in this very important sector. And therefore, Tourise is a full year event. We will have the Tourise Summit in November, where this summit, as JP said, will create the platform for many stakeholders, the governments, to meet with the private sector and to meet with the NGOs. And if we go back to during the pandemic, it wasn't properly managed at a global level because we had a systematic problem, but every country was dealing with the pandemic alone in silos. And the government was issuing a very strict regulations that impacted the private sector without consulting the private sector, who invest, build, operate, and take the full risk. And therefore, we came up with the Tourise initiative and platform to bring together the private sector and the public sector, where we expect more than 100 ministers of tourism at a global level to attend.
You did say 100.
More than 100, because we will have.
Okay, I might have to hold you to that one. That's a record.
We will have this year. We will have the Tourise back to back after the UN Tourism General Assembly.
Right.
Most of the ministers will stay for Tourise, and they will have the chance to meet with the private sector, and they will have the chance to discuss this very important industry. Unemployment for government is important, and this sector, as Julia said, one of the most, if not the most important sector to create jobs, and therefore, we aim to create the platform that brings the policymakers and the investors and the operators together, and the technology providers, etc., together to discuss, to agree, to align on the future of this very important
industry. It's true. In the last 15 years, we've made great innovations, but I think you're correct, Minister, that you could actually have another wave of major innovation which would improve, and I know that's a passion of yours. Julie, this didn't come in with a name from one of our journalists from around the world, but you talk about the WTTC representing the private sector, and both of our representatives here from the ministry and from Tourise are saying we want the private sector and public sector to work closer together. What is the private sector asking for now from governments at this spurt of growth, but also with some geopolitical uncertainty when it comes to open trade?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, I would say it's still that governments work hand in glove with the private sector and have that joint vision. Where travel and tourism works well is when the government and the private sector share a joint vision. And it might sound sort of like woolly words, but when you see governments that don't care about travel and tourism, you see that they are missing out on jobs. The other point is, our sector will be creating jobs at a time when AI is going to be taking jobs away. But our sector will be actually, so particularly for countries with lots of young people in them, it's absolutely vital that governments look at that sector. Another area I would say is sustainability in its broadest sense. We need the governments to be working with the sector to look at renewable energies. I'm very proud that the Kingdom has invested over $1 billion in the north of England, in Teesside, to help set up a renewable fuels plant, and that Aramco themselves are looking at a study on renewable fuels. But there are other technologies as well. We're seeing SMRs, the new mini nuclear power plants. All these things are going to be required in an era where data centers are going to be creating more carbon impact than even travel and tourism. So we need to see it as a complete connectedness. And finally, I would say, is understanding how we are so totally connected, because whether it's watching a Netflix program and having a super app that will immediately be able to tell you, goodness, you can go to this place you're watching, and I know all about you already, that you're a vegetarian and you've got 15 grandchildren. I know it all. And they will sell you in that second the opportunity to travel. So we need as a sector to stay across all these very, very fast-moving technologies.
Great. Really great insights here. If I may, JP, there's a question from Graham Cook from Breaking Travel News. You were in the exhibition business, and that's where we met over 12 years ago. They asked, or he asked, is there an exhibition area at the conference? And if so, how will it be different? Listening to what the minister has in mind, can you share some details now what it should look like?
Absolutely. The short answer is yes, there is an exhibition component. However, I wouldn't necessarily look at it as a traditional exhibition. That's important to understand. And the reason I say that is because this is going to be what we're terming the innovation zone. So we talk about the advent of technology. We talk about the impact that it has. We see and understand the adoption everywhere in our lives today. But there is so much more to come. And we are literally only touching the tip of the iceberg in terms of the technological developments that are coming our way. And so the innovation zone is going to be that opportunity to be able to understand the next big step forward. Now, whether that comes from a large-scale corporation, whether that comes from the aviation sector, whether that comes from the medium-sized companies, or indeed the SMEs, because the SME-sized companies are also very disruptive in their space. They are risk-averse. They don't care. Or they have less propensity to be worried about risk. They will take that opportunity. So this is where we want to create this environment where groundbreaking technologies, innovation, immersion into what's next is an experience, not just a trading and a conversational opportunity.
Go ahead, pick up, Minister.
Yeah, John, if I may add also to what JP said, there is today enough events that are heavily towards exhibition. And I think exhibitions or events that are exhibition-driven were created back in the 50s, before even the internet. And therefore, when we studied the gap and the need, we found it in the summit, in the dialogue, in the discussion, where we want to create a platform that brings the regulators, the public sector, with the operators and the investor, the private sector, represented by WTTC and others, and the NGOs, where they can sit, discuss the challenges, the opportunities, from end to end. The DMCs, airlines, airports, hotels, and mobility, technology, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we will be covering the whole travel and tourism experience and process in Tourise. We want to make sure that airports, investors, owners, and operators, they know what airlines are doing, and they know what airlines needs, and the hotels are changing. We want the DMCs to talk to the hotels and the hospitality providers and tell them how the need of the future travelers are changing. It is changing, we have to admit, but we need to sit, discuss, and make sure that that we are aware and we are taking the necessary action. We want to make deals in Tourise between the different players in the industry, and therefore Tourise is more towards a global summit, think tank, dialogue, where policy makers, governments, and private sector can meet and make policies that will support and serve this industry.
Okay, we have a lot of different questions coming in. One is about Japan, and this is from Kyoyo Hiroyama, the travel voice of Japan. And I think you can address it in a wider context. And Julia, maybe you can start. Is there opportunity for partnerships with Japan's travel industry and companies? Japan's had a revolution in travel, so has Saudi Arabia. How do you see this platform, Tourise, bringing partnerships together? Julia, you want to start? Your Excellency, JP, in terms of not just networking, but saying, look, you have your objectives, I have my objectives, how do we partner? Do you want to start?
I just want to start with, this is a global platform. We will, it happened to be here in Riyadh. We took the initiatives because we saw a gap. We are investing heavily in this sector. We announced it. We're investing more than $200 billion in the sector and building new airports, new airlines, new hotels, new resorts, etc. And therefore, we care about this industry. We have established the Global Sustainability Center, the Global Training Academy, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we were thinking, how can we create a platform like leap where the technology provider can meet, like FII, where the financial services can meet, and invite the stakeholders of and the players in the global travel and tourism industry to meet, discuss, make decisions that will have an impact on this industry.
Good. You want to pick it up there, Julia? And also, one would ask, why do we need something additive to the WTTC or to the world travel market? I'd like to get your perspective because you're at the WTTC, yeah. You have your annual event, you're a convener. What do you see here that is different in your view? And JP, I think you've been to these other exhibitions and events. What could be created here? Go ahead.
I mean, I was just briefly going to talk about Japan as well.
Please, yeah.
Because Japan has really exploded in terms of the amount of visitors that it's receiving, which is phenomenal because Japan is such a unique culture. I think the challenge now for Japan is everybody's doing sort of the Golden Triangle, the Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, and it's really important that Japan looks at how they can extend their market to different off-peak seasons and around the rest of Japan. So well done, Japan. I'm really delighted. Well, my view is that the potential for travel and tourism doesn't need to rest on the shoulders of one organisation. We are very, very proud partners with Tourise and with the Kingdom. And I have to say the courage that the Kingdom has shown in taking forward tourism is really a beacon for everybody. I love the way that Tourise is going to be looking at getting rid of the old-fashioned 1950s way of looking at things and really looking at how technology can help us. Because if we're looking at things like destination stewardship, which in fact is an issue in Kyoto, what some people call overcrowding, you're going to do that with data. Because data management, if you go to somewhere like Singapore, it has one of the biggest footfalls in the world. You will not see unmanageable crowds because they literally have a twin digital Singapore, and they monitor it and they manage it. Everything is manageable, but we need to be able to use that technology. We need to have very open, honest dialogues between the politicians, between local communities, between the businesses, get it all out on the table and ensure that travel and tourism, which is a benefit, is actually felt as a benefit to everybody.
Really, really interesting. JP, you had a choice to do a lot of different things, and I think it was a conversation with His Excellency that said, this is what I have in mind. And you shared this with me, I think with the FII. You said, we got to start thinking a little bit differently because times are changing. The geopolitics are changing. Technology, Julia is saying, are changing. How will this be different as you see it today from anything that's in the marketplace? Or does it need to be?
I think the position that Tourise takes, the differential is actually in its proposition. So we are approaching this from a perspective that it has to be an event and an opportunity that has actionable outcomes. It cannot be just an echo chamber of conversation. It's really important. And I think the fact that we are looking at the public-private sector convening to tackle the biggest challenges, the hardest conversations, and also bringing on board, you talked about partnerships, and the question was, how can we bring in overseas partnerships? This is a global issue. It doesn't affect just one country. They may differentiate from country to country, but it is the whole question that we have to look at is holistic. And as a consequence, if we don't embrace these partnerships, if we don't have these meaningful conversations, in whatever format it might be, whether it's the conference program, whether it's in sidebar conversations, whether it's a round table, then we won't have actionable outcomes. And it needs to extend, as His Excellency said, it needs to extend beyond the actual 3 days of the event. It's a year-round dialogue.
Okay. We have another question coming in about, you touched upon it in your opening remarks, Mr. Al-Khatib, about the Tourise Awards. Can you share what the idea is here that picks categories of people, rising in tourism and making it different? What do you have in mind here as an organization, JP, Minister?
Yeah, John, things have changed, and the traditional awards award, for example, buildings best five-star hotels, best four-star hotels, and etc., and so on and so forth. We have been thinking with a big group of advisors, including the advisory board for Tourise, who has, who sits on the board from all the different industries, including airports, airlines, hotels, and so on and so forth, to come up with the award that will encourage awarding the destinations, the cities that takes care of very important topics. For example, sustainability. Everybody's talking about sustainability, and there are many destinations are putting sustainability in their forefront in everything they do, including the material they use, the care about the nature, they care about the people, and so on and so forth. And we define the sustainability with the Global Sustainability Center using three pillars. We make sure that there is an economical sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability. Social sustainability, during COVID, we lost millions of jobs in our sector. We want to reward that destination, those destinations who will protect the human capital and the environment, etc. And therefore, we allocated an awards for the sustainability. Another award for the technology, because technology is in our industry is very important, starting from screening and searching about new destinations, trying to with the acceleration in the artificial AI, trying to design a trip, trying to get the best deal for your vacation and your family vacation, and so on and so forth. So we will reward the best entities that provide the best technology solutions, and so on and so forth. The category that we started with are really cross-sector categories, and we will continue, Tourise will continue to add to its category through their a very well-respected jury board.
Okay, good. We have a lot of questions coming in, so I'm sorry I'm looking at my phone because they're coming from around the world. The only thing I wanted to say is that if we could not get to your question today, the team from the Ministry of Tourism, from the WTTC,
Tourise.
and from Tourise will be responding
Absolutely.
accordingly, right? I would say
Absolutely.
so. We've had a lot of innovation over the last 15 years, a lot of awareness on sustainability, like with towels and changing of sheets and things like this, the light bulbs that are used, but it feels like we're on the cusp of something that could be explosive if used correctly. I think that was something that popped out here. And now that you've laid out the vision for Tourise, you can see the trajectory in which we are going. Mr. Al-Khatib, it's great to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on the launch, Julia. Thanks for coming to Riyadh to support this. We had her here in 2022, right, during the WTTC.
Yeah.
JP, it's always a pleasure. Congratulations on being the CEO of Tourise.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you for convening this today. This has been an incredible moment. We're at the turning point for travel and tourism. Tourism is rising. It starts now. Please visit the dedicated Tourise website, tourise.com, Tourise.com for more information. And follow along on your preferred social media channels. I can guarantee you we'll be active on that front. We look forward to sharing more updates and progress as we work towards the inaugural event in November. It's here in Riyadh. These three will definitely be here. I hope to join it as well, and we hope to see you there. Thanks again for all the participation. I think we hit almost 200 registered journalists from around the world and all corners of the world. We just couldn't get to all the questions, and we'll see you soon.
No, promise them to answer all their questions.
We'll be here all night. Thank you very much.